Hello there and welcome to the No Script Show. This is our second and final video redesigning a vet's site. We thought we needed 3 videos, but we're going to see if we can pack it all into just 2. In video 1, we randomly picked a site for an imaginary redesign and invented some client's aims, possible branding and structure, and came up with a basic mock-up in Figma. Since then, David has coded it up. And although there's room for refinement, we'll assume that this is an agile project and this will be done on an ongoing basis, perhaps informed by real user stats or feedback. What we're going to cover today is the approach to the site CSS and what we should test before the first version goes live. You can download all of this by GitHub, and I will add the links into the show notes below, and you can follow on if you like. The images on the GitHub repo have been replaced with stock images, though. So with all of that out of the way, hello, David. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. We can go to full screen if you like.
And gosh, that quickly. Okay, let's do it. Okay,
yeah.
So let's pick up where we left off.
There's a lot to cover here, I think. So
hopefully you can see that. Good job.
So we'll just recap. I mean, we'll put these videos out together, actually. So hopefully people will be watching this straight after the first one. But just to recap, this was the site we originally had, wasn't it? The Swansdale Veterinary Care Center, and that's what it looked like. And there was a few issues with this, wasn't there? There was just things like if you were on mobile and stuff, you couldn't see the logo. We didn't, it wasn't that easy to. I think there was other issues as well. The navigation was our main issue. It was a bit hard to work out, particularly on mobile, where you were going. I don't think we actually even covered this, but it gets a bit
I don't recall. Yeah, I don't think we did. But I mean, basically, if you're watching this video and you haven't seen video 1 and you're interested in what we found as problems, then go and watch the paired video, the first video, and you'll get all of that in about 30 minutes. So
yeah,
and you've been a busy bee since then, haven't you?
Yeah. So it's been we did last time. We did our quick mock-up, which we realized during the first one, didn't we, that we were talking about it had to do a break, so we kind of rearranged their content in a way that might make more sense, and that's what we came up with. Nothing was kind of very well structured or laid out, and then this has turned into the live site, which is let me just go to the right one here. Ta-da!
Yay. Can I just say at this point, David, you're very modest. You keep using the word we. Like I've had any part of it. I've been in no way, shape or form connected with this since the previous video. David has done all the work, so that should be an I, not a we. So there you go.
So so I did this, and I take full responsibility. By the way,
okay, we'll take it like that. Yeah,
I was trying to pass someone to you. Yeah, and it's on GitHub now. Let me just explain quickly here that these pictures, they are taken from Swansdale, which we nabbed from their Facebook, so they're a little bit sorted. But in the live version that's on GitHub, you will see that they've been replaced with these stock images.
Right. So if you want to download this whole project from GitHub, you are okay with the images that come with it. They're no longer kind of stolen, if you like, from the
exactly. I don't want
Swansdale website. Okay.
Yeah, and I've removed the text that alludes to them, so it's the No Script Show.
Okay,
quicker word rather than
come to us for all your veterinary needs. Yeah,
so we've even got a logo. So that's pretty much all there is to it. So there's only a number of pages that are made up on this one. So we were talking before about they made their team one of their big things, and we said we'll use these colors to highlight their different kind of jobs. So I've mocked these up with some fake people, but put it in the about page.
Yep.
So that seemed like a sensible thing, because then there are keywords to say. So yeah, it goes straight to that thing there. And what else is there's not much on the services is the same as the little bentos block that we've got over here. And I put
that was on the homepage, wasn't it? Down at the bottom of the homepage, that bento block.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this was just really just to show they've got pages like this, but these are mobile responsive rather than that. And it's using the same bit of code, basically, that's on the homepage. So that's a quick overview. Just quickly, I'll just say that there is a very basic doc. So if people have got a doc preference, they will get a doc version of this.
Because just before we hit record, you said that was a basic version. Just looking at it, just eyeballing it very quickly, I can't see why you would say that. What's missing? What have you not done?
Well, I would say these colors don't kind of transfer very well. So what I
I
did
see.
on this, so we've gone for what was the sort of maroony color, has changed to this color in this version, which I kind of like these colors, but I'll probably cover this in a moment. But what I would like to do, and I will probably change this on the GitHub version later, is when there is support for relative colors. So I've got a very limited color scheme that I've used, and I wanted to use some transparency overlay. And you can do that with relative colors where there's enough support with it. So I could have these because I kind of hard coded in. So I would like to change the colors on these bento boxes to match into the theme, but I didn't want to create a whole load of more hard coding.
I see. Okay,
So
well, that makes sense. All right.
it's something for later when the support for these things are there. So with modern CSS. So that's that. So what I wanted to do, let's go out of dark mode.
Okay.
And I've put some notes on here. So we'll make sure we cover it. So we said we'll try and the approach. Really, I guess what I would like to do with this, thinking about what I would want from content, is I would like something I can download and know how it works. So I could steal some of the bits for my own, project. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. So I wanted to give an overview of how this is set up. And I should mention, because we have mentioned it before, just in passing, is that basically I'm trying to set up a little project which I called the Intrinsic Framework, a very pompous name for it.
I like it.
Which is really just a place where I dump all sorts of bits of code, if you like, and pages with things on it. So everything that's in this template has basically come from that. And I'm using these projects that we do to try and inform this to be a better sort of thing, which I'll release later. But at the moment, it's a bit of a mess. But that's where the codes come from. So
great. What a fun project for you in the future. I love it.
Yeah, it's just interesting building some sites out and seeing where when I get wrong. Of course, I'm still learning. That's the whole thing about this, isn't it? Going from page builder to hand coding again is particularly at this time. So yeah, to give an overview, to understand how I've gone about this, I needed to say that you need a methodology, don't you, for your CSS? So otherwise you end up with this, which is all my projects up to now, is where you think you organize your CSS in some way,
no.
but then you end up with this whole section, the sort of the Hall of Shame section at the bottom of your
right at the end, everything
where everything gets dumped on at the end, as you realize. So you need a place to put your code, and there's different approaches with this, but I've been informed by Cube CSS, which we'll just bring up here, which is something by Andy Bell. And it is, if anybody's familiar with methodologies like Ben, it's something that he used, but this kind of goes back to sort of 2010, where people used to be trying to make everything into their own little block components. So he stepped back to working, as he's saying, these sort of things tend to work against the grain of CSS, against the cascade. So his approach is that once you've styled all your elements in the first place, which CSS is useful for, then you've got this other stuff where you need your classes for it. So he separates these out into what he calls cube, which is composition, which is basically structure, utility, which is a little bit like Tailwind, but Tailwind's a different mentality to it, because it's trying to separate the CSS from the HTML. But he's using some of that in the sense that you have the little things like if you wanted to have something that's visibly hidden for screen readers, you would call that a utility class and you would stick it on your element so that CSS affected that. Or if you wanted spacing between things to be organized, flow, as he might call it, it would be used for that. And then it's where Ben would normally start with block, which is where effectively if you've got your composition, your structure of your stuff, then how you're styling, say, an individual card on that would come under block. So you keep all your stuff there. And then there's finally exceptions, which is where you put in things which go against. I've only got one exception in my code here, which is basically that. If I go back to our page back to the home, the only exception I've got is that I've centered all my header ones except on the home page.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be an exception to the general rule. So you're always trying to do as much as you can with global. So that's the approach. That's the my understanding of his approach.
Okay, great.
So So, do you want to ask me anything on this?
No, so far so good. That makes perfect sense. Just one quick thing: all of these links will be in the GitHub repository that you would download as well, right? You've got that website info page in the GitHub
Yes.
repo. Okay.
It's slightly different on this, but I'll update it anyway. It'll
Okay.
keep getting updated all the time on there.
Yeah.
I'll go to the GitHub because you can see that better actually if I go there. Well, I'd opened it up. Oh, yes, I have. So it's
Yeah,
over
you've got
here.
it. There you go. Yep.
So anybody can just go and download that as a zip and run it. If you make a copy of it, you can do this really cool thing. And I'm just going to increase the size of the screen because I think that's a bit difficult to see it on here.
Oh, other way.
Go the other.
The other increase.
The other increase. Yeah, there's a really cool thing which I didn't know about. I'm sure everybody will just be slapping their heads at me now, those who are used to this stuff. But I didn't realize within your own repository on GitHub, you can bring up your own code editor. So you can do it all here. So we basically have a VS Code here. Here we are, and we have all the pages over here, which is just the ones that I've made up over here. And we have also, I've thrown in a 404 because it's hosted on Netlify, which if you add in a 404, it will just automatically send people to that page. So it's a bit of dynamic stuff that's on that hosting. And then there's just the images files that are in there and the CSS. And that's following, I've given separate files for the Cube stuff. So we have a reset in here. I might as well just open that up. I've stolen this from Andy Bell, and it's got some other, it's not entirely what he does, but I won't go into that. Then we have our global CSS, which is all sections off. So what I've done with all of these is so this is just written like this, so I can just do a search on this one. So if I just go find on this one, I can go to, because it's set up in a certain way. So if I want to go down to 6, I can have it shoot down.
Yep.
But yeah, these are just sectioning off all of the stuff here. I might as well cover this now, actually, just quickly. So the color variables, as I say, these are set here. We've got dark theming preference here. And what I'm also using for here is Utopia. There's a video I did on Utopia for fluid. If you just go to here, it's a calculator. So I just copy and paste this into here to give us our typography and connect these steps to our header 1s, 2, and 3s, and paragraphs, etc. And the same with spacing. So it's the same Utopia. This calculator gives us this fluid typography. And that's pretty much it. All the stuff you would expect to go in here, the styling for the text elements. And then we just go to other global elements that need styling up. So that's there. And then we move into the composition.
You know, into your cube stuff.
Yes. Yep. So that's the first thing. So it's basically just so it says cube. It should be structure, really, because that's what we're looking at. And I think this is the most interesting bit. So for those who are not familiar with grid, because it's underused, and particularly using grid templates, this is how this site's put together. So if I go back actually out of here into the actual site, and I'll go to the home page, pretty much everything is using these grid templates. So if I go into the inspect here, and well, it's jumping straight away to this one. On the body class, I've even put in grid. Now, probably a lot of people wouldn't do that because it's just one column. We've just got a header, a main section, and a footer. But the reason for doing this is, which I think is quite cool. I think it's quite cool anyway that you can put it all in grid. So we can use this grid template here, which is like ASCII art way of being able to design your pages. So actually, I'll probably just need to go. No, what I'll do is I'll go into here and we'll see. So I assign a grid template area of header, footer. I've just called them H, M, and F. Okay. And then when we take these actual elements and then give them a grid area, so we can move this around like this, and we could just swap them around. So just to show how, I'll just have to come back out of that. So I just go back to inspect, and go to grid here.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm not used to doing it on here, but I could just swap these around. So if I want the footer to go to the top, no, it's messed up until I put them in their areas
Yeah.
in the header. So now we have the footer on the top, and then the main, and then on there. So we can move things around.
Nice.
Yeah, it's quite cool to be able to lay things out in this kind of. I think this is the move with designing from the browser. If you don't understand how the grid works, grid and flex, you could design with that in mind. And there's just a gap, which is actually using one of the space pairings. So it's actually small to extra large. So as I squeeze closer, the things get the
Reduce.
get smaller.
Yep.
So, but that is used for everything here. So if I just go up here and
you're still going to have your footer at the top, aren't you?
Oh yes.
You just refresh. Yeah.
Good point. Let's go over to the header grid now, and you can see here.
Okay.
If people don't know about this, you can just decide on your layouts here what it's showing and what it's not showing. But I don't know how well you can see that. But it
says logo. I can see logo, contact, nav.
Yep. And CTA on this one. So if we just go into the styles here, and I'm not sure about how this is laid out. It doesn't look particularly good. So this is something you might want to change. But I mean, I can easily change this by just going like that. If I want this
to be closer up to the logo, give the logo a bit less breathing room.
Yeah. So this is slightly different in the sense that, and I don't think anybody, I've only seen Miriam Suzanne and Rachel Andrews actually even talk about using grid templates, other grid template areas, but actually you can put a /. So what this is really saying here is that once you sectioned out these areas like this, on this side, you can put this here as the row settings on this side, and this is doing the columns over here. So I can quickly adjust how I want these to look and what sort of space I might want to have on this. But yeah, the idea with this one is because it's grid here, so we sectioned it up here. So as we squeeze in to the areas, we've got a lot more. Oops! Before it gets into the center, we've got a lot of wiggle room before things start to touch, and then by that time,
there you go, boom, yeah,
we go into the central. So everything above that in it has been set to grid center.
Yep.
So we started mobile first with that. So I won't go on too long because this will get too boring. But I mean, anyone looking at it, exactly the same thing is happening here with the bento boxes. If I go over to this, this has been done with the. Oops, have I just hit the right one?
I think so. Yeah, that one there.
Yeah, it's not showing up. Have I just messed this up now? Let me just make sure I've got this properly. No, there's the bento grid.
Got it.
The right grid on it.
Yeah.
So again, that's the same thing happening there. And again, if we look at the code here, we can. It's not gone to that bit. Let's go. Yeah, there we are. We've got these sectioned out in exactly the same way, and we can control how we want this to be. So I've made this. It's not showing very well. These would be alongside the minimum content here is making sure that this is gonna hold all of that. So that's it. And the same with the footer. So that's exactly how this has been done. The footer, as you can see, is just showing up here for those sections. And that's it. So I just think this is wonderful with grid, the fact that you can lay out these kind of things and that you can do the whole page as well, from the fact that the footer now gets pushed to the bottom because we use one fraction for the middle section. It means it will always stick to the bottom without lots of messing around. So
yeah, I guess it's hard to show that in a video without sort of dwelling too much in it. But I think you've made the point. And of course, if you download the GitHub repo and deploy it on your own environment, then you can more or less right-click in the exact places that David did and see how that all hangs together. So it's all there,
exactly
available for you to see inside the composition, I'm guessing, .css.
That's it. I'm just bringing that
there.
Up
it is,
there.
right at the top, in fact. The body you've got at line 18, so you can go from there. Okay.
So you could just jump into these different sections and then move them around and play around with them. I mean, I think part of the key of learning layout now is it's simplified, but if you understand the sort of thing here. So a lot of this for the header, if you can still remember how that's sort of laid out on that one with the logo.
Yeah, logo left.
I've had to justify the content and align the content sometimes. So if you're in a Western language, so it's one of the features here that you won't see any left, right, tops or bottoms. I'm using the internationalized writing mode way of saying things. So everything's an inline start or end, or a block
Nice.
start or end. So everything's lined up like that. And once you've got that concept, then being able to justify and align your content is fine, as long as you understand you're in the Western language, and that, it's going to align that way. But it's a good way of writing anyway. Okay, what else do I want to cover on here? So essentially what happens once I've got this layout there, then any of those sections that I want to style individually, I will go and put those in the blocks. So often it looks pretty much the same, where we'll look at different areas. And this is where usually where the stuff goes into the shame area, because you keep adding to it.
Because you've been fiddling as you go and don't know where to, or just can't be bothered to find where to put it.
Yeah. So this is my structure. So using the cube and then making sure that I section these off is pretty easy for me when I want to make a change, to know exactly where to go. If it's structural, it goes in the composition and it's listed. And then if it's a block within that structure, then the extra styling, the aesthetics, end up in these sections.
So it feels like you probably tackle it in order. You're probably tackling the composition, well, obviously the global first, and the reset, but you kind of download the reset from somewhere else probably, and then you're tackling the composition, getting all of that figured out. Then the most of the work of the day-to-day work, if you like, is in this block.css file, where you're actually styling the individual bits and pieces, much like you would have always had in style.css. Like you said, it always gets congregated towards the end because of apathy, laziness.
Exactly.
But most of the work is in there. Okay, great. So these are the blocks that we're looking at now, I'm guessing.
Well, an example, I guess, why an example from Andy Bell taken from his cube thing is why he would do it. So if you were, say, using Ben, you would often start with the block, and your structure and everything in that structure would be combined in that particular card. So these might be all treated as individual cards, which would all be at the block level. But what we're doing is we're structuring all of these together. Some of the structure that might be in these stays in the composition.
Give us an example of that. So explain what you mean by that, because you sort of glossed over that. So give us an example of the bits which might end up as structural as opposed to block level.
So with these blocks here, so you might want to style these cards individually, but what I've done is said what's in the structure there. So we have the basic structure over here, but anything else, that's basically all there is in here. The rest is
it's a fairly simple example.
I can't find you a good one, but it's a sort of a different approach. So you do as much as you can globally first, and then you'll start with the structure as best as you can, and then you'll add the individual styling, rather than start with everything as a block and self-contained.
So the obvious one jumping out at me there is the rounded cornerness. That's going to be on a sort of structural level.
The rounded corners I would put. I mean, this is where you could argue about how to use it. There are some arguments where you might want to use that, but it would be in the block. I would do that in the block.
Okay. Because you might not want everything rounded, I'm guessing. If it was 100% cast iron that everything was going to be rounded, it would go into the okay, all right. I can see why you'd do it there. Do you know, I would probably have done that differently. But then there we go.
No, what would you do differently?
I would probably have put it in the composition, the rounded cornerness, just because they are all rounded corners. But then it occurs to me that not everything should be a rounded corner. So yes, it probably doesn't belong in there, but I probably would have made that mistake, put it into the composition, and then pulled it out and put it into the block at some later date, because I'd figured out, oh, no, hang on. But then you've been working through this, so you know.
Well, I mean, there's not much in the way of videos on Cube CSS, and I think everybody takes some different form of doing it. But interestingly, with the example you gave with the rounded corners, I would have done if they were there more. I would have probably made that a utility class, of which I added as needed. Yeah. So examples of that are flow, which is another thing where you create. I can't go into too much detail on this one, but this is an old trick which might not be needed soon because CSS is changing. But we have this thing called the lobotomized owl. As it's supposed to look like. But basically, what it's doing is it's saying that you can put a margin top on something, but it will ignore the first child.
Yeah.
Okay. So it kind of gives you some structure, and I can kind of show this Let's just go over to this page. So I add a flow to this, and it makes sure that all of these different elements are kind of spaced consistently. So wherever I put flow, there is the same margin top against on a paragraph, on a heading or whatever, so it's consistent across there. And I might use the same thing for border radius. I might add that as a class that I add to the things that go in there. But I haven't done in this case. I've added them individually.
Okay, sorry, I totally derailed you there.
No, it's fine. It's fine. That's what I want. I realized that I should have gone back one step earlier, just to the HTML, just to mention it really here.
Okay.
So if I go back into, if I just pick any of these, I should just say how this is sort of set up.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll just quickly say on the header here. So
yeah, I did wonder the order that you were calling them in, and I presumed it was reset global cube, and it is. Okay, right.
So yeah, so on the header section for all of the pages here, I put all of those style sheets as individuals here. I mean, you could, they amount to 9 kilobytes. So I think it's fine that these load now fast, but you could minimize it and put them all in one if you were finishing the project. But so things that I would just put and have put on here, that's just a link because I'm not putting it into schema where you might want to add that, and I would add it to the top. And a little thing that I have done on here is I've just put in a bit of the SEO with just the title and the meta description. And I've put in the open graph image, the same image, to use it for Twitter and this. So, for example, if I just go over to, just to explain this, I don't know if it's worth going on to this. If I just go and put in, what's our page called? What you'll see in there at the moment is this. So you might want to swap it out if you are using this. It's okay.
It's not quite the right image, but I get the point. Here
so that's it in there. And what I've done is, because if you go and you mark it all up properly, you get all of this code where you give a description and a title for each of the open graph and for the Twitter. I'm not sure how well the Twitter one is working, but you can cheat by just putting the regular title and description and then just putting one in. And I've put a little thing around here so you can just see on the different, as you can see, it's starting to cut the top off.
Oh yeah.
We're going to Slack. But if you design one image and put it across all the pages, then at least you've got something for all.
Yeah, you've got something and it's relatively straightforward to implement. Okay, got
it.
Interesting.
Okay, so that's that. And I've just put favicons in there, but obviously they all need replacing. That's all there really is to say on this. I was mentioning to you there are some things that I might want to change later for accessibility. I'm doing an accessibility course at the moment, and it's making me think about some of the ways that I might mark up things like navigation areas. But I think that's all I really wanted to mention on the code. I mean, there's nothing. Let me just have a quick check. Oh, it is worth mentioning as well something that I have done for accessibility. Again, this might change, but often when you put in, as I'm doing on the page here, we've got these little icons here, and they are inline icons that I'm using.
Okay.
And I have put the accessible roles on that this as well. So
in this case,
yeah, so you put an area labeled by, and then you can put that to an ID of that, and so it reads out to screen reader, telephone link, because it's a clickable link. And it is worth mentioning as well, because this will confuse anybody, but I have put the article over here with the emails. I've obfuscated the text on them as well. So there is, I don't know.
Oh, I see.
That. Yeah. And it's got subject on there as well. So I've not obfuscated on this, but an unusual thing, which I didn't know about as a technique, is that spammers, apparently they either go for this link, the one that's in the code there, or they go for the one that's in the plain text. And you can actually fool them by sticking in something in between your .com and then putting that to hide, to display none. So screen readers don't know it's there. Regular people don't know it's there, but the spammers are completely confused because they think it's this dot example name.
It
So
it
they
won't it won't last for long, David. They'll bug that out.
But there's a good link there to somebody who's been testing this for some
Yeah.
time. He's made it
Okay,
his
that's
thing to,
interesting.
yeah. So he
The
claims both of
eternal
these.
battle to obfuscate emails.
He thinks a combination of these are 100% on this
Okay,
one for
all right.
defeating these. So anyway, it's often missed out. I think that's all I wanted to say on the HTML, but I just realized I did need to mention that. Let me go
Okay.
back. Any questions you have?
No, all
Or I
good.
just plow
All
on?
straightforward so far. Got it.
So do I need to, I'm just saying what's noteworthy on this one. So I have put in the skip links as well on this one. So as well, they are in there and just there. So that skips out this. I did also, because we've got on the opening hours on this, I've put a back to top, which is at the top of the header here. So my theory is...
Oh, okay. So it's not floating at the bottom of the viewport. It's inside that actual grid there. Okay.
Yeah, I would be interested in any thoughts on this. The reason for doing this is that if you're a screen reader and you're going into these different areas and stuff, you get down to the footer. And if you're forced to go through all of these links that are down here, that can be a pain.
Yeah.
So if you go to the area, you can then realize there's a back to the top. So if you're going through different pages, you can skip that area and get back to the main navigation again.
Yeah, once you've got through the main content, once you're through that area.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that's quite neat. I hadn't really thought about it like that.
Well, I've only just thought about it recently. I just saw Amazon did their back to the top above their main because they've got lots. I don't know if it's the right way. I've never heard anybody say anything about it, but there's often a way to get to a header or skip to your content. But to skip out of it, I've not heard anything.
No.
So
okay. Well, over to you.
So that's that. So this is more. I don't think I need to explain the code too much more, so it'll get very boring. I could say just what we're doing for testing on it. So what we wanted to do is what we should find with this. So I've already covered the dark
mode. You've got,
I have also put a preference on this one, so it doesn't scroll like that if you set the preferences. If your preference is set to no animation,
just goes straight to the bottom. Yeah,
exactly. Logical properties I've used the no top, bottom, left, right.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yep.
This is quite an interesting thing which I discovered recently, which is to use this outline. And I don't know how well this is going to work here. I might mess up our recording here as I try and do this, but I'm going to put this in a high contrast theme on my computer. So let's just go to the site and just to explain why these outlines are used. I'm trying to get to my... So if I go to my accessibility settings on a Windows and I go to my contrast themes.
Yeah, we can't see this, which
you can't see this.
For the best.
Can you see it over there? No, you can't see it.
No, but that's how it should be. I think we don't need to see your Windows settings here.
Okay, so let's go and have a look at this. I'm going to set it to the one that's called Acheron here, which is a very dark one. Aquatic. Let's just apply this. For my screen gone blank.
Yes, no, it's gone very dark.
Oh, very good. Okay, right. Well, that's exactly what we should see. So just to explain why this outline is there. So if you go into that mode and I've got my regular styling on my button, you won't see the outline on it.
Hang on, we've got a problem in that our images are in the way. Just scroll. You can't scroll down anymore, can you? The photo, you and I. Oh yeah, go to the bottom where you've got the scroll to top button. We should see it there, shouldn't we?
Okay.
Yeah. There. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Go with that.
Okay, so what we should see, actually, I need to just show you where it is. So if I go to the About section over here, what we should see, we've got an outline around this. Can you see this?
Oh, yeah, got it. Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, so it's just a nice little trick that I discovered recently. So I've included in here. So if you've got high contrast themes, I'm going to take us out of the high contrast theme. There's a way of being able to put using the outline to a transparent that what it sees because it ignores borders. So if you've got a high contrast theme, it ignores borders. So you can't put a border in, but what you can do is put an outline transparent and then it will treat it like a border. So it makes the thing look a bit better.
Neat little trick, David.
I can't remember who told me this. Yeah. I'm finding some very good people now. I just need to get out of this. Can I just go back to none?
No, you stop.
yeah. I'm going to do something very silly in a minute.
No,
I've got
we're back. Yeah.
hovering near my settings of the stop sharing button all the time.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Do that.
Back in our room. So back to my list again.
Not that one. Not that one. Yeah, there you go.
Yep. So we should see accessibility. What I've tried to do, that's I'm sure it doesn't meet the top one, 2.2 triple A. But the tool I've been using, I did do a video on our channel on it, is this Silk Tide one, which I think is wonderful because it offers a little screen reader. It's not a perfect screen reader, so you can't use it for absolute testing, but it does do some great stuff. And we can test on there. As I say, you can't trust these things for automatically testing, but as you should see for all of the pages, it's passing. And part of that is I make sure that there's no external links that don't go to another place that don't announce it. That would be one thing that does that, and it's kept very simple. You did mention to me before about landmarks, didn't you?
Yeah, before we hit record, I was talking about landmarks and whether or not that was something that you thought about in the overall structure, and the answer is you had. What had you got it down to? 4 landmarks or 5 or something?
Yeah, there are 8 in total that you can use, and they're pretty much assigned according to using Sematic HTML.
Yeah.
So if you label something a header, a footer, then they become a header becomes a banner. If you put a nav, it becomes a navigation. If you use a main, which you should, then it becomes a main. And this content info is always the footer if you use those tabs. So I didn't need to do any work, but there is some work to do, I think, because I'm taking a course by Sarah Suadan, who has practical accessibility course, and I'm still trying to learn how I might add because I've got the navigation on the top here. So on some screen readers, it will say there's a range of navigations to go to. Unless I announce them, it will be confusing.
Got it.
On NVDA, it's not confusing, which is what I tested it with, just leaving it blank because there's a title and it will read those out. So I probably need to change that. But yeah, that's just a little accessibility thing.
Yeah, that's nice though. Nice that you're giving that some thought. And what's that tool? Silk Tide. That's not one I'm familiar with.
No, it's a Chrome extension, and it's quite nice because it just makes things like that really easy to read, and things like your headings as well. You can sort of read them. And actually, one thing that it does really well, if I go into dark mode, it actually tests my color contrast against that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I'll pass on this. If I go into Wave, which a lot of people will see, it will fail because, well, it'll sort of fail for the right reasons in a way. Let me just go. If I just go back to the home page on this, it will pick up on this yellow.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't matter because it's only part of this. So it's not really a fail, but it will also not pick up on the fact that I'm using this kind of coloring over the top here. It will read the text here. And this is probably worth a mention because this is what I've done, because I think this is a fairly new technique to do this. Generally, what you needed to do when you put a color over something, you generally created, you made that a relative position element, and then you created a sort of pseudo element over the top and layered it over. But what we can do now is do it with box shadow.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can kind of use that. So in fact, it's seeing a lot through. Let's see if I can just make it show you how this works. If I take that down to, you can, if I can make that a 0, that's on my spread, you can see what's happening here.
Got it. So you've got the box shadow spreading out to, if you like, going up and left.
Yes.
All right.
And I could move that around. Also, I've hit twice.
I don't know what you did there.
There, so I can move the positioning around
of
what's covering it. Yeah.
That's a neat little effect. I like that. That's cool. But the web aim tool doesn't know that you've done that, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't know what it is. So it says it's a fail, but hopefully because it's dark enough against it, if I do the actual test against it, it should pass okay because the text is over here in all positions. So that's it. And this one collapses down anyway. So if I go to the mobile view, it collapses down to this, and the text is always. Well, I've just messed it up.
Again, that looks really bad.
Yeah.
Fresh.
So that was, I think it's a really good little tip here. I mean, generally, I've used this more because I've left that come through a little bit of space. But if you would just put in an overlay, now you can do it with the box shadow. I think it's a
Yeah.
lot better than all that nonsense you had to do before with creating a sort of fake element to stick
Yeah, I
over the
love
top
it.
of it. Yeah, position.
Brilliant.
Let's have a look. Let's have
Back to there.
anything
That's it.
else worth mentioning? Yeah. So I'll just go and run the test on this one. It does run okay. It should do for all of the pages. I'll run that
Oh, it's
again.
in there already. Yep.
Yeah, it's one of the saved ones before. I've mentioned the encrypted email,
Yep, you have.
ARIA labels, dark. Dark.
You did.
Okay.
Oh, not SVGs. No. Okay.
I'll just quickly mention that then, because what you'll see here is that we have on, I'll go to this page here, we have a blob. Can you see the blob? It's a
Yeah, I see it. I see the blob.
You see the blob, and
I
you
see
might
the blob.
still just see the blob if we go into dark mode. It's a
I
bit
can
harder.
still just see the blob. Yeah, very slightly.
Okay, well, this is quite interesting, the blob. In fact, maybe
There's a sentence you don't hear every day.
it's not. Let me just go into now. Where is my blob contained? I don't know if I actually put my blob. It should have been in the block, shouldn't it? That would be the sensible place
You would
to
have
put my blob.
imagined so. Now you've got to find the blob.
The blob. Here is the.
Oh, it is. It's
yes,
blob.svg.
here is the blob.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I've put it to go on the home and in the insurance page. So what we'll see here is that the blob is the one blob, and it's respecting the preferences, which it shouldn't, in theory, do. An external SVG shouldn't know that it's happening.
No.
So I've put in here, commented out there is a blob dark. So if you're on Safari or older browsers, that won't work.
Right.
So if you want that, you can uncode this one, which will set a different preference, which will actually load a different dark.
Okay,
instead.
got it. So you do a dark version on Safari.
So if I just go and look in my images, sometimes I'll put these in an SVG separate. I'm still working out, of course, how I do it. But if I just go into my blob, what you can see is that I've used CSS within here.
Yeah.
So I'm styling it to if that's what the color should be.
Yeah.
And then it's changed it there. Shouldn't happen.
Right. Got it.
It's one of my discoveries. I've not been. If somebody knows, I keep asking the question really to anybody who might know why that works and shouldn't work, but it seems to do. Anyway.
Real edge-based stuff you're doing here, David. It's great.
Yeah, it's sorry, let me just I've got myself lost with all of my should go back.
There you go. You're back. Where's the website info? There.
Yes. Noteworthy. I think I've covered that. Open Graph. Yeah, I've covered that. Oh, what I didn't mention, two things actually that I think are quite key. How are we doing for time?
We're all right. We're probably on about, 40-ish minutes, something like that.
Okay. Right. Two things that I haven't mentioned that are in my composition. And the first is that I'm reusing this a lot. It's used on the pet insurance. So we've got this, image right and left, and that common pattern it's used on their site already. It's there as well on the home page. And I should just mention that, and I will go back to here and go to my composition. So if we go to the homepage main that it's called here, I am using this thing here. It's probably the most coolest thing in CSS Grid, where you have this thing called the RAM technique. And in fact, look, I'll quickly explain it on this because it's
okay.
better.
Yeah, I don't know what's coming here, so I'm keen to see.
Okay. I put some examples on here. So it's using the same thing. So intrinsic layouts as we have.
RAM.
So we have this RAM grid thing where if I resize this, then it automatically, with this kind of one line of code, goes down to 2 to 3 to 1.
Yeah.
But it can also go out if I stretch further than this with this technique. And that's this bit of code here, which says repeat these and auto fit them into the size that the browser has to a minimum of this figure to that.
Yeah.
And then it gets a little bit more complex because to stop overflow, you also add on the minimum 100% so it can never go to the minimum and force things. But you could take one step further with this one, and this is what this scary code is where we can fix this same technique, but not have it go to 4, just have it go to whatever numbers. And this is where I think CSS is going here, where you can kind of get all this engine stuff using all of these kind of variables in this confusing stuff, which I mean, I put this together, but I can't explain it to you now.
That's great, but it's there. We can see it. You did it.
But I don't need to, because all I need to know is how many grids do I want?
Yeah.
What space do I want in between, which is using one of my variables, which I got from Utopia, and how I want those to be. So if I go back to our site, let me get rid of Cube because that's confusing me. And also, it's still running the test.
It is still running. Oh, there you go. Maybe it needs to be open in the browser for that to happen. Yay! 100 all the way. All the way. Yeah. Look at that.
So that's what we've got here, and we're using it in 2 places. So I've given it a 2-col. I've set them to 2 columns.
Yep.
You can ignore the scary stuff over here. The only issue I had with this one is I've gone in the DOM order. So it's gone text, image, text, image, text, image. And then when we go to our grid layout in desktop, we've got the image coming after the other image, but to the left, if you understand.
Oh, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So I've had to swap the order around here of those.
Got it.
It's because it's only an image. It's not an accessibility problem. But basically, this.
Oh, I see. So you got 4, 3, 5, 6 instead of 3, 4, 5, 6. Got it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I could just reuse that for the other pages where I want that, and set that up, and then exactly the same thing is being used over here. Where's my team here? So it's the same thing, but on the team where I wanted those, because I wanted them with different thing, I've just put them team wrapper, set the same bit of code to 4, and then we see the team does all that.
Let's see it.
Let's see it
if it'll come.
Just give me 100, but it's getting slow.
Yeah, that's right. It's slow as molasses, but it's definitely 100.
Yes.
Here we go. Right. Let's have a look.
So
there's your team.
So,
yay!
So
2,
so
3.
They go. Yeah, they don't go beyond that. It'll go to 1, but my browser
won't allow it at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's that. So that was a key thing to know, because you just need to change the settings there and ignore the scary code, which I think is a way that a lot of CSS will go, which is almost like this idea I've had in my head for a long time, which is you'll almost end up with a page builder within your CSS, if you like.
Yeah.
And the second example of that is this thing, which is on this page. Perhaps it's used on other pages, which if it goes to that page, I don't know.
Come on, website info. You can do it.
Yeah.
No, it can't. It really
won't do it, will it?
It really doesn't want to load. Maybe try opening it in a new tab in desperation.
I think, desperation comes to mind. Let's just see. I don't know why it's doing that.
Oh, you're very brave closing the original tab. Let's see. Come on. Oh, there you go. No.
I didn't want to go to that one though, did I?
No, something. Yeah, something's balked about. No. Here we go. Great.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah, I don't know why I say it's obviously running too many programs here. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to mention, which is in the code here, which is brilliant. I do mention it over here, so I don't think I put the links onto it, but it's on here, something which I use. This is a generator here called layout breakouts here. I'm using a different one here, but let me just show you what that is. If I go and put grid on here, we'll see. Oh, we're really going slow over here.
Never mind.
We have this thing called page layout, and this is a really confusing bit of code, again, which you don't need to understand, but it's quite cool, because what it does, once you set it up and you've put your body to the layout or wherever you want the layout to start, hopefully you can see with the grid.
Yeah, here, I can. Yeah, we can see all
these different lines. So these are all, and this is why I put this image in here, so you can see what's actually happening here. So I'll just go and open up Inspect again. If I go and select this, we'll see that this is set to full. If I do this, so often in your blog posts, and you could create this for all of your pages, you would have to create a separate div with HTML to break out of your center area. With this, and you can get it from a generator, which I've done in this case, you can set up these things and say, okay, I want the image over here to be in this image class of full. And while I'm here, this has reminded me, this is again borrowed from Cube and Andy Bell. He puts
Okay.
these little brackets around here because it makes it easy to read, but you need to put space in between it because basically it's working on the fact that the browser
Yeah.
ignores anything it doesn't understand. So that
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. So just to explain why I've
Yeah.
done that
Yeah.
all the way
That
through.
makes sense.
It's for quick readability, but yeah, you need the space. So yeah, so you could do that. And it's not going full width here, obviously, because, and I can just adjust this just to show
Yeah, I was
you.
wondering about that. There must be some constraint on the 1920 or whatever that is.
There is, if I just go into composition over here and go to it, what I've done here is a very quick fix for having the margins on the
Yep.
side of the
Yep.
page. Is like
There they
I've
are.
done these
Yep.
generically across here. But if I wanted to make, let's have a look. This is my main section. So let's just, so that I can make this go. There's lots of different ways I could do this, but if I say I don't want it to do it on that one, I can put a not, and then I can put
Yeah, there it is.
in.
There it is.
Oh no, it broke. But until I put this here, so if I put this page, I think it was called, all of them have got page titles, so this will be in. Oops.
Oh, info. IFO.
And then put main.
Yep.
Yeah, so the rest of it stays in there. So, I mean, I can make my exceptions, or I could use is and say which pages I want to not have the padding on them. And then, on those pages, we can use this. So it's really cool.
It's like a massive jigsaw puzzle, all of this, isn't it? You're just dropping in all these little pieces. It's brilliant.
Exactly. And this is, I mean, the code itself is this, which, again, but you can go and just use this wonderful little app. It's got a long history for this. I don't think anybody knows where it's come from. I think I've isolated where the original person who came up with it in about 2017. I've put a link to them somewhere. But yes, you can use this generator where you can say, okay, I set mine with characters, and you can set these. So again, you've got settings which you can use in here. So all you actually need to know to change it is to say, go over here and say, I want it to be
such and such. Yeah.
And you can name it. So, that's it really. I think,
gosh, you packed a lot into that, David.
Yeah, it's a bit boring. I think this chat, because it's a bit too much to try and cover in one go.
No, it's really interesting. We just need to make sure that the show notes reflect all of the different sections, and maybe in the show notes that go on the YouTube video, we just highlight what's happening when, so
yeah,
and scroll to it. But is that all the screen sharing, Don? Can I take the screen share away?
I think so. Yeah, I've got a little list here of just things that need to be.
Oh, okay. You go through that then. Sorry.
No, there's not much there. I'd mentioned it, the better dark mode. If I use the relative colors, I could do more. I might change it on this. I need to restructure some of the HTML because I'm learning a little bit more about what might be better for the accessibility, particularly around the hours and the nav. An interesting thing, which your thought on this. So this would go naturally to. This is how I would go about it. Let me just go and bring this up. Just your thoughts, because I don't know if I'll ever get the question answered for me. If I go to the headings, okay, it's not loaded. It's not loading for me, is it?
No.
My browser is messing. Let's go.
Something's balked there, isn't it? Never mind.
Yeah, all I was going to say, actually, if you go and look at the headers, we go down to here, which I typically do, where everything's got. So the next one down here was a header 4, and then these are header 5s. But it did make me think, as people with screen readers might go to those different region areas, whether it would be appropriate, even in your footer, to go back to that region and having a header 2 and then 3 instead of going from the 4,
Yeah. So what, the depth of the headings being inconsequential?
Yeah, I mean, you can't have another header 1 because that's the whole
sort
body.
of sacrosanct, but everything else is kind of
Yeah,
irrelevant.
so whether this should be, as I just naturally go down and think, oh, these are smaller, so I go into header.
Yeah.
But I suddenly realized, we're actually leading people to go straight to that section over here. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would probably put that if it's opening hours. I'd probably, because it's in a section all of itself. Would that not be an H2
Yeah, I was thinking it should be a styled H2. I was thinking it makes more sense if you were. I'm now
Well, because you want to
started
skip
to.
to it quickly, don't you? And I don't
Yeah,
know is the answer. I'll let you cogitate on that some more. I think I'd go with an H2 though.
yeah, and I've gone with because of habit. I've gone with a H4 and 5, and it just made me think about this. So I'll see if I
Okay.
get further information on that. But it made me think about different sections and
Yeah.
how you use it and
Yeah.
why I've copied what I've seen before, but it made me think about it again.
Mm.
There's one other thing while I'm just here, just to mention. I won't go into the code on it, but I think it's another little cool trick which goes back to actually my Beaver Junction days and Beaver Builder. But this has got a nice little. It's like a little
Yeah, I
table.
noticed that. I noticed that on the mobile first. When I saw it on the mobile, I thought, "What's going on there? All the lines are really
Yeah,
long." And
if
then I
you
looked
just
at it on mobile. You're just sort of spanning the gap between the left and the right. Yeah.
exactly, we're using floats. Can you
Yeah.
believe it?
Well, I was
Floats.
going to say, I would literally was about to say the floated left and right, and I didn't know whether that was what you'd done. Okay.
Yeah, it literally is a float again. I
Okay.
just think it's a really cool thing to do for
Yeah.
these. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I think you can take away the screen
Take
now.
away the screen share, in which case we will nip back over here. And obviously all of that is available on GitHub. David is open to commentary. You know, if you want to tell him what you think, or if you've got any questions, then reach out to David via the comments on the YouTube video. But that's fabulous. It's like wheels within wheels within wheels. And I've learned a ton watching that.
Oh,
There's so much going on in there, and I will have to honestly, there's like about 4 years of learning that I'm behind just watching that video. So
it's a combination of the stuff that I've picked up and some
yeah,
really useful things that
yeah,
I
yeah,
found along the way. But the same, and it's like GitHub. I put some stuff up on GitHub. Please be aware that if anybody doesn't know my background, this is all new to me.
yeah. You're right. Okay.
Yeah. So when people start to branch out my stuff and send me stuff, I'll probably just go.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so we'll knock it on the head there, but we're sure to have some content coming up soon, kind of related to that, possibly a different website. So yeah.
Yep. You will do another website, definitely.
All right. I will see you soon, David. Thanks so much for that.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.